Hey, how's it going?
Hey, good. How are you?
I'm hanging in. So this week's episode, Dr. Santos has a small bit of a mistake, to put it lightly. Um, how
Mm.
much of that is coming from a place of just being super excited to finally get to do this versus a little bit of arrogance of, oh, well, of course there's somebody there to catch.
No, to me, I think it reads as for 5 episodes, she's been begging to do this. She's been like, I can do this, I want to do this, and that arrogance coming through of like, I promise you I can do this. And all of a sudden, it's being offered to her. And I think we can all relate to that feeling of like wanting to do something, want it, and then when you finally get the opportunity, being like, wait, can I do this? And that all of a sudden doubting yourself. And I think there's some nerves that come in where all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, I'm about to do this and I'm shaking, and then whoa. And I think it's a big character development moment for her to really be humbled in a big way, because she had kind of one ally and she literally stabbed her in the foot.
I, I mean, it's better than the back, right?
Yeah, sure. I
Yeah,
guess.
right. Yeah, I was actually gonna ask how much of that reaction that we see is just in general, like, oh shit, and how much of it is because of who it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's kind of the worst person it could happen to in her eyes, because obviously there are people who are more senior to her that maybe that would be worse, but like Garcia was kind of the one person that she could kind of confide in, and like saw her and respected her and also kind of liked her, and like there was a little bit of that tension too. And so that all of that wrapped up, that's kind of the most embarrassing and traumatizing thing you could do to someone who you respect and kind of have a crush on too. It's like that's a nightmare to me.
Yeah,
Like if I
it's
think about accidentally stabbing my crush in the foot, I want to cry.
that's completely fair. So I guess so since it is her crush and it is somebody who has, been there for her, backed her up with Langdon. Um, so she hears this message of confidence is good, but there's a limit to it. This is the second time now.
Yeah.
So what can you tease going forward about, there's what this is episode, there's like 9 episodes left, but it's actually 9 hours. So we probably shouldn't expect in a day somebody to be like completely different. But how does
Right.
that change the trajectory the rest of the day?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, like going forward, it's going into 7, 8 hours. Like you're starting to get tired. Like that's just by nature of working in the ED, is like you're tired. And so I think episode 6 is the beginning of that humbling, and it's gonna start to weigh down because it's you're getting into more hours, and more patients just keep on coming, and um and more things come up to confront your own emotional issues and your own backstory. And I think this is just kind of the beginning of more emotional growth for her, that obviously not so much can happen in one day, but it's a long day and a lot happens. And like I think this moment kind of cracks her open a little bit. Even though like, and she's going to keep trying to close that wall again, she's going to keep trying to build those walls up, but it's going to keep falling down. Like that's just the nature of it.
It's really interesting. And does that affects her relationship maybe with the students and a little bit too,
Yeah,
probably?
I mean, I think now now she's like, well, great, I've messed up too. Like Now she can't really sit on her high horse and talk about how amazing she is. It's like, but in classic fashion for anyone who is like this, who has their wall up and likes to punch at people before they can punch at her, she's just going to get more defensive probably for a little bit. There's going to be more defenses and a little more punching to happen, because that's unfortunately when someone is that guarded, there's usually vulnerability and pain hiding underneath, and that makes them really want to hide. And I think you see the aftermath of that.
So the relationship them to the students coming up to this point, it's kind of struck me as it's the type of thing where if you're really close with somebody, you can make those jokes.
Yeah,
And then when you're not, it
you're
just comes
not.
across as
It's
mean, right?
mean. Yeah. No, she's being mean. Absolutely.
Mm. So that's kind of her intention, or is she I like
I think
trying to be confident?
she's a very competitive person. She is an ex-athlete. She's very competitive by nature, and what we always talked about in our like character background meetings is that she's an ex-athlete, probably a gymnast, and that's kind of what I've landed on. Is she used to be a gymnast, and I think there's a lot of competitiveness that goes into that. I think there's a lot of mind games that can go into that too. And so I think when she pivoted to medicine, she brought that same energy and was like, I'm alone in this now, and I'm going to just kind of tunnel vision, go forward, and do what I can to get ahead. And that is where that kind of aggressive nature uh, comes from when she's punching at the fellow students.
That kind of hits some of my interests like so hard. Like it's funny that you actually brought up gymnastics because I follow the sport a lot, and there's that mental aspect of it where you have to get into your zone, so to
Yeah,
speak.
and like if we look at like a lot of what's happened in that sport too is like there's a lot of girls who band together, but there's also a lot of girls who are pit against each other and who
Mm.
like can really be make each other the enemy instead of the people who are putting them in bad situations the enemy. And so I think there's that comes forward, and you see more of that energy, and you see where that pain comes from later episodes, as you keep watching.
And just a quick one, is there any other episode coming up that either is big for the character or that you particularly connected with patient's story or anything like that more?
Well, episode 7 is a really big one for Santos, and I think shows um her vulnerability a little more. Obviously, she doesn't let her guard fully down, but you start to understand why she does what she does, and where those walls come from. And also, like, a lot of my favorite moments are towards the end, so obviously can't talk about them too much, but like in the last couple episodes, there's some really lovely character growth that I think happens for every character. Everyone gets lovely moments of wrapping up because they've been through hell that day, and there's no way that people are walking away from it unscathed. And the writing is so beautiful that it can show, even though it's so many characters, they still are able to show a glimpse of every character being changed after that day, and it's really beautiful.
Awesome. I'm looking forward to it. I've been holding off so that I can kind of
Yeah,
enjoy
yeah,
it.
yeah,
You know, I do one by one, but then I want to do them all, but then I can't because
yeah.
yep.
Well,
Um,
you'll see.
I will see. Thank you. I've been really enjoying it and I'm looking forward to the rest.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You too. Thanks.